The Pacific Ocean was dark and cold at 7 kilometers below the surface. No sunlight could reach this deep. No human had any business being here. But Dr. Park Yuna had never cared much about what humans were supposed to do. She cared only about what they could do. She stood in the control room of the research vessel Horizon, her eyes fixed on the sonar display. The ship rocked gently above them, but down here in the operations center, everything felt still and quiet. Too quiet. The readings on the screen made no sense, and that was exactly why she could not look away. "Run the scan again," she said. Engineer Cho Hana sat at the console, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. She was young, barely 30, but she was the best submersible pilot in the program. More importantly, she never asked unnecessary questions. "Third scan complete," Hana said. "Same result. The object is approximately 400 meters long, roughly triangular in shape. Composition unknown. It is buried under 60 meters of sediment." "And the age?" Hana paused. She looked at the numbers on her screen, then looked at them again. The geological layers suggest it has been there for at least 65,000 years. The room went silent. Dr. Kang Minyu, the xenobiologist, let out a short laugh. It was not a happy sound. "That is impossible," he said. 65,000 years ago, humans were living in caves. We were not building anything that could sink to the bottom of the ocean. "I did not say humans built it," Yuna replied. She turned to face Captain Lee Do-yun, who stood near the door with his arms crossed. He was a tall man with a calm face, the kind of person who never seemed surprised by anything, but even he looked troubled now. "Captain," Yuna said, "I need to go down there." Do-yun shook his head slowly. "Dr. Park, we are here for a geological survey. Our funding comes from the Korean government. They expect rock samples and ocean floor maps. They do not expect us to investigate mysterious objects that may or may not exist." "It exists," Yuna said firmly. "The scans are clear. There is something down there, and it is not natural. Whatever it is, it has been waiting at the bottom of this ocean for longer than human civilization has existed. Are you telling me we should just sail away and pretend we saw nothing?" The captain did not answer immediately. He looked at the sonar display, studying the strange shape buried in the darkness below. Yuna could see the conflict in his eyes. He was a careful man, a man who followed rules and procedures. But he was also curious. All sailors were curious. The ocean called to them, and they could not help but answer. "If we go down there," Do-yun said slowly, "and something goes wrong, I will lose my command. My crew could lose their lives. Is this worth that risk?" Yuna stepped closer to him. "Captain, I have spent my entire career searching for answers about human history. I have dug through ancient ruins and studied artifacts that told us where we came from. But this," she gestured at the screen, "this could tell us something far bigger. This could tell us that we are not alone, that we were never alone. How can we walk away from that?" Do-yun was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed and turned to Hana. "Prepare the Deep Star for descent. Full crew. I want every safety protocol followed exactly." Hana nodded and began working at her console. Minyu stepped forward, his expression worried. "Captain, I must object. We do not know what is down there. It could be dangerous. It could be contaminated. We could be exposing ourselves to something we cannot understand." "We are scientists," Yuna said. "Not understanding things is exactly why we exist." 3 hours later, the submersible Deep Star dropped into the black water. Inside the small vessel, 4 people sat in cramped quarters surrounded by blinking lights and humming machinery. Yuna was in the observation seat, her face pressed close to the thick glass window. Hana piloted the craft with steady hands. Minyu monitored the atmospheric readings, still muttering about contamination protocols. And Captain Do-yun sat in the back, watching everything with sharp eyes. The descent was slow. The pressure outside increased with every meter they dropped. The water changed from blue to gray to black. Strange creatures drifted past the window, things with transparent bodies and glowing spots that lived their entire lives without ever seeing the sun. 2 kilometers, Hana announced. All systems normal. Yuna barely heard her. She was thinking about what waited below. Her whole life had been leading to this moment, though she had not known it until today. Every ancient temple she had explored, every mystery she had solved, had been preparation for something bigger. She felt it in her bones. 5 kilometers, entering the trench. The walls of the Mariana Trench rose around them like the sides of a great canyon. The submersible's lights cut through the darkness, revealing rock formations that had never been seen by human eyes. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. 6 kilometers. I am detecting the object on sensors. Bearing 045, distance 800 meters. Yuna's heart began to beat faster. Take us in. The deep star moved forward through the black water. Minutes passed like hours. And then, slowly, something began to emerge from the darkness ahead. It was black. Blacker than the water around it, blacker than anything Yuna had ever seen. It seemed to absorb the light from their vessel rather than reflect it. The shape was smooth and curved, with angles that looked somehow wrong, as if they belonged to a geometry that human minds were not built to understand. "My God," Minyu whispered. The craft was enormous. Even half buried in sediment, it stretched far beyond what their lights could reveal. The surface was perfectly smooth without any visible seams or joints. No rust, no decay. After 65,000 years at the bottom of the ocean, it looked like it had been placed there yesterday. "That is not natural," Doyun said quietly. "That is not anything we have ever built." Yuna could not speak. She simply stared at the impossible thing before her. All her training, all her knowledge, all her experience meant nothing here. She was looking at something that should not exist. Then, as the deep star drifted closer, something happened. A light appeared on the surface of the black craft. It was faint at first, just a soft glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. But it grew stronger as they approached. The glow spread across the hull, forming patterns that looked almost like writing. "It knows we are here," Hana said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It is reacting to us." The patterns shifted and changed. The glow intensified. And then, with a sound that they felt more than heard, a section of the hull began to move. It slid open smoothly, revealing a dark passage beyond. An entrance, an invitation. Yuna stared at the opening in the ancient craft. Whatever waited inside had been waiting for a very long time. And now, finally, someone had come. "Captain," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I think they want us to come in." Do-Yun looked at the dark entrance, then at his crew, then back at the impossible ship from the stars. He had spent his whole life on the ocean, but he had never faced a decision like this. "Return to the surface," he said finally. "We need to prepare a boarding team." As the deep star began its long ascent, Yuna kept her eyes on the ancient vessel until it disappeared into the darkness below. The opening remained visible for a long time, glowing softly like a beacon. It had waited 65,000 years. It could wait a little longer. But not much longer. The night passed slowly on the research vessel horizon. Nobody slept. How could they sleep after what they had seen? The crew gathered in small groups, talking in hushed voices about the impossible discovery that waited in the darkness below. Some were excited. Some were afraid. Most were both. Dr. Park Yuna spent the night in the laboratory, reviewing the data from their dive over and over again. Every scan, every reading, every second of video footage. The ship was real. It was ancient, and it had opened for them as if it had been expecting visitors. By morning, Captain Lee Do-Yun had made his decision. He gathered the senior crew in the briefing room, his face serious but calm. "I have thought about this all night," he said. "What we found down there changes everything we know about human history, maybe everything we know about the universe. We cannot ignore it. We cannot walk away. But we also cannot be reckless. He looked around the room. I am forming a boarding team, 6 people. We will enter the vessel, document what we find, and return to the surface. No unnecessary risks. No heroics. We go in, we look, we come out. Understood? Everyone nodded. The team was chosen quickly. Dr. Park Yuna would lead the scientific investigation. Engineer Cho Hana would handle any technology they encountered. Dr. Kang Minyu would assess biological threats and contamination risks. Dr. Shin Tiwu, the ship's linguist and code expert, would attempt to understand any symbols or writing they found. Dr. Yoon Yeeman, the medical officer, would monitor the team's health and handle any emergencies. And Lieutenant Bei Suji, the security officer, would protect them all. Suji was a quiet woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had served in the military before joining the research program, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had faced danger many times. When she checked her equipment, her movements were precise and efficient. "I do not like this," she said privately to Yuna. "An unknown structure, unknown origin, unknown purpose. Too many unknowns." "That is why we are going," Yuna replied, "to turn unknowns into knowns." Suji did not smile. "Just stay behind me when we enter. If anything moves, I want to see it first." The deep star descended again at noon. The journey down was quieter this time. Everyone was lost in their own thoughts, preparing themselves for what they might find. The weight of the water above them seemed heavier, the darkness outside seemed deeper. When the ancient ship appeared in their lights, it looked exactly as they had left it. The opening in the hull still glowed softly, waiting for them. "Atmospheric readings," Minyu said, studying his instruments. "The interior of the vessel appears to contain breathable air. Oxygen and nitrogen levels are almost identical to Earth's surface. No detected toxins or pathogens." "How is that possible?" Tiwu asked. "The ship has been sealed for thousands of years." "I do not know," Minyu admitted. "But the readings are clear. Whatever is keeping the atmosphere stable, it is still working." Hana guided the submersible closer to the opening. The entrance was large enough for them to walk through standing up. Beyond it, they could see a corridor that stretched into darkness. "We are as close as I can get," Hana said. "From here you walk." Yuna looked at her team. They looked back at her with nervous but determined faces. These were good people, she thought, brave people. They deserved to be here. "Let us make history," she said. One by one, they passed through the airlock and stepped onto the surface of the ancient vessel. The hull beneath their feet was solid and warm, which surprised Yuna. She had expected cold metal, but this felt almost alive. Suji went first, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The corridor before them was wide and smooth, with walls that curved gently overhead. There were no sharp corners, no flat surfaces. Everything flowed together like the inside of a living creature. "The walls," Tiwu said softly. He reached out and touched the surface. "There are markings here, symbols." He was right. Covering every surface were intricate patterns, lines and curves that formed shapes Yuna did not recognize. They were not random. They had meaning. She could feel it somehow, like a word stuck on the tip of her tongue. "Can you read them?" Doyun's voice crackled through their radios. He had stayed in the submersible to maintain contact with the surface. "Not yet," Tiwu replied. "But I am recording everything. The patterns seem to follow a logical structure. Given time, I might be able to decode them." They moved deeper into the ship. The corridor split into branches, leading in different directions. Suji marked their path with small lights so they could find their way back. The air was cool and fresh, with a faint smell that reminded Yuna of rain on clean stone. Then, without warning, the ship responded to them. Lights flickered to life along the walls. Not harsh electric lights, but soft glowing patterns that flowed through the material like blood through veins. The symbols on the walls began to shift and change. rearranging themselves into new configurations. Everyone froze. "Did we trigger something?" Yeman asked, his voice tight with fear. "I do not think so," Yuna said slowly. "I think it knows we are here. I think it is waking up." The lights grew stronger, illuminating the corridor ahead, and now they could see where it led. A large chamber opened before them, circular and vast, with a domed ceiling that seemed impossibly high. In the center of the chamber stood a raised platform, and on that platform were rows of strange objects. They looked like coffins, or cocoons, or pods. "Those are stasis chambers," Hana said, her engineering expertise recognizing the purpose even if she did not understand the technology. Something was being kept alive in there. They approached slowly. There were hundreds of pods arranged in neat rows, stretching across the entire chamber. Most of them were broken, their surfaces cracked and dark. Whatever had been inside was long gone, either dead or escaped or simply dust after so many thousands of years. But not all of them. Yuna walked among the rows, her heart pounding. Broken pod after broken pod, empty shells of a desperate hope. And then, near the far end of the chamber, she stopped. 3 pods remained intact. Their surfaces still glowed faintly, their systems still functioning after 65 millennia. And through the transparent panels on their surfaces, she could see shapes inside. "Over here," she called, her voice barely working. The team gathered around her. They stared at the pods in silence. Inside each one was a figure. They were tall and thin, with skin that was pale gray and smooth. Their features were similar to human faces, but not quite right. The proportions were different. The eyes were larger. The fingers were longer. But they were close enough to human that looking at them felt like looking into a strange mirror. "They are alive," Yeman said, checking his medical scanner. "Vital signs are weak but stable. Whatever technology is keeping them in stasis, it is still working." "Who are they?" Minyu whispered. "What are they?" Nobody had an answer. They stood in the ancient chamber of an ancient ship, surrounded by hundreds of empty pods and 3 survivors of a species that had crossed the stars before humans learned to make fire. Then one of the pods made a sound, a soft hiss, like air escaping from a sealed container. The figure inside began to move. Suji drew her weapon immediately, stepping in front of the others. "Everyone back," she ordered. "Now." But Yuna did not move. She watched as the pod slowly opened, its cover sliding back to reveal the being inside. It was thin and fragile-looking, its movements weak and uncertain. When it opened its eyes, they were large and dark, reflecting the soft light like pools of still water. It looked at them. It looked at each of them in turn, its gaze moving from face to face. And then, incredibly, its thin lips curved into something that might have been a smile. It spoke. The sound was soft and musical, unlike any language Yuna had ever heard. But beneath the sound she felt something else. Images, emotions, ideas that appeared directly in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "Welcome," the being seemed to say. "We have waited so long." Yuna's knees felt weak. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. She wanted to laugh. Instead, she did the only thing that made sense. "Hello," she said. "We are humans. We come from the surface of this planet. Who are you?" The being's eyes seemed to brighten. It reached out one long, thin hand toward her. "You," it said in her mind, "are our children, and we have much to tell you." Behind them, the walls of the chamber came alive with light. Images began to form, showing stars and planets and ships sailing through the endless void of space. A story was about to begin, a story that would change everything. Yuna took a deep breath and listened. The being stood before them on thin, unsteady legs. It had been sleeping for 65,000 years, and its body was weak. But its eyes were bright and full of intelligence, and when it looked at the humans, there was something in its gaze that felt almost like love. Lieutenant Bei Suji kept her weapon raised, her body tense and ready. "Do not move," she said. Stay where you are." But the being did not seem to understand the threat, or perhaps it simply did not care. It took another step forward, its hand still extended toward Dr. Park Yuna. The images in her mind grew stronger, clearer. She could feel the being trying to communicate, trying to share something important. "Lower your weapon," Yuna said to Suji. "Dr. Park, I cannot do that. We do not know what this creature is capable of. It is not going to hurt us." Yuna did not know how she knew this, but she was certain. The emotions flowing from the being were not hostile. They were desperate and hopeful and sad all at once. "It needs our help. It has been waiting for us." She stepped forward and took the being's hand. Its skin was cool and smooth like polished stone. The moment they touched, the connection between them strengthened. Images flooded her mind, coming faster and faster. Stars, planets, ships, wars, death, hope. And then a word, a name. "Ren," Yuna said aloud. "Its name is Ren." The being nodded slowly. It understood. Despite the thousands of years and the vast distance between their species, it understood. Ren turned and gestured toward the walls of the chamber. The lights responded, forming images that everyone could see. What had been flowing only into Yuna's mind was now displayed for all of them. They saw a beautiful world with purple skies and silver oceans. Cities rose from the landscape, elegant and graceful, built by beings that looked like Ren. They walked among gardens and towers, living lives of peace and wonder. "The veil," Ren said. The word formed in their minds, not their ears. "We are the veil. We came from a world far from here, many stars away. We were explorers, scientists. We traveled the galaxy, searching for life, searching for others like ourselves." The images changed. The veil ships sailed through space, visiting world after world. Most were empty, just rock and ice and gas. But sometimes they found life. Simple life. Creatures that crawled in mud or swam in dark waters. "We did not want to be alone," Ren continued. "The universe is vast and empty, and loneliness can destroy even the strongest species. So we decided to help. We took the seeds of life and planted them on worlds that could support it. We guided evolution, encouraged growth, gave life the chance to become something more." Dr. Kang Minyu stepped forward, his face pale. "You are saying you created us. You made humanity." Ren shook its head slowly. "We did not create you. We gave you the beginning, nothing more, a spark. What you became, what you built, what you achieved, that was all your own. We planted seeds on 1,000 worlds, but most grew into nothing special. Simple creatures, peaceful but weak, alive but not truly living." The images showed other species the veil had helped create. They were varied and strange, but they all had something in common, a certain softness, a lack of fire. "But humanity was different," Ren said. "You were not what we expected. You did not grow peaceful and gentle, you grew fierce, determined, stubborn. You faced every challenge your world threw at you and refused to give up. Ice ages, predators, disasters, disease. You survived them all, not by being strong but by being clever, by working together, by never accepting defeat." Yuna felt a strange pride swelling in her chest. She had studied human history all her life. She knew how much suffering their species had endured: wars, plagues, famines, cruelty. But she also knew how much they had achieved: art and music and science and love. They had clawed their way from caves to cities, from campfires to computers, and they had done it alone without knowing anyone was watching. Or so they had thought. "Why are you here?" she asked Ren. "Why did you come to Earth?" The images on the walls changed again. This time they showed something dark. Ships moving through space, but not veil ships. These were different, black and twisted like nightmares given form. They moved in swarms, millions of them, blocking out the stars. "The hollow," Ren said, and there was fear in the word, deep, ancient fear. "They came from the space between galaxies. We do not know what they are or where they began. We only know what they do. They consume everything. Every world they find, every species they encounter, they devour. Not for food, not for resources. They simply destroy because destruction is all they understand. The images showed the Hollow attacking Veil worlds. Cities burned, ships exploded, billions died. The Veil fought back, but their weapons were not enough. They were scientists, not warriors. They had spent millions of years learning how to create life, not how to take it. We ran, Ren admitted. We scattered across the galaxy, hopping to survive. Our world fell. Our civilization collapsed. Those of us who remained fled in whatever ships we could find. Some went one direction, some another. This ship carried 1,200 of us, refugees, the last of our kind searching for somewhere safe. And you came here, Tiwu said, to Earth. Yes, we had been watching your world for a long time. We knew humans were different, stronger, fiercer. We thought perhaps you could protect us. We thought perhaps you had become powerful enough to stand against the Hollow. Ren paused. The sadness in its eyes was overwhelming. But we came too early. When we arrived, your kind still lived in caves. You had not yet built cities or ships or weapons. You could not help us. You could not help yourselves. We had nowhere else to go, so we hid our ship in the deepest ocean and entered stasis. We planned to sleep until humanity was ready. 65,000 years, Yuna whispered. The pods were not meant to last so long. Most failed over the centuries. Only 3 of us remain, and the others will not wake. They have been damaged beyond recovery. I am the last. Minyu shook his head, struggling to process everything he was hearing. You created us to be warriors, to fight your war for you. No, Ren said firmly. We created you to live. What you became on your own. We gave you potential. You turned that potential into something we never imagined. When we planted the seed of humanity, we hoped you would grow into wise and peaceful beings like ourselves. Instead, you grew into something new, something that fights, something that refuses to surrender. The being looked at each of them in turn. We came here hoping you would save us, but I see now that we were foolish. You do not owe us anything. We are strangers who interfered with your world long ago. If you choose to walk away and forget you ever found this ship, I would understand. But I must tell you one more thing before you decide. The images on the wall changed one final time. They showed space, dark and empty. But in that darkness, something was moving, a shadow among shadows, a hunger that had been searching for 65,000 years. The Hollow are coming, Ren said. They have been following the trail of Veil refugees across the galaxy. Sooner or later they will find Earth. When they do, they will not care that you are young. They will not care that you are innocent. They will consume your world just as they consumed ours. The chamber was silent. The weight of Ren's words pressed down on everyone. We cannot fight something like that, Suji said. We do not have ships. We do not have weapons. We are barely able to leave our own planet. Ren reached out and touched the wall. Symbols flowed under its fingers. We have something for you, it said. We saved it for this moment, the knowledge of the Veil, our technology, our weapons, our shields, everything we learned in 10 million years of exploring the stars. It is yours now, all of it. Our last gift to the children we never expected to love so much. A panel opened in the floor, revealing a glowing core of light. This ship still works, Ren said. It can teach you. It can help you build what you need. But the Hollow fear nothing. In all their existence, they have never known defeat. If you are going to face them, you will need to become something they have never seen before. Ren looked directly at Yuna. Its eyes were fading, its body failing. You must make them afraid, it said. Can you do that? Can humanity teach the Hollow what fear feels like? Yuna thought about everything Ren had shown them. The vastness of space, the horror of the Hollow, the fall of a civilization that had lived for millions of years. And then she thought about humanity, about all the wars they had fought, all the enemies they had faced, all the times they had been told they would fail, and all the times they had proven those predictions wrong. Yes, she said, we can. Ren smiled one last time. Then its eyes closed and it fell. Yuna caught the ancient being in her arms. Its body was light, almost weightless, the last survivor of a species that had crossed the galaxy to find hope. It had found humanity, and now humanity would have to decide what that meant. Ren was not dead. Not yet. Dr. Yoon Yeeman worked frantically, using every piece of medical equipment they had brought. The ancient being's vital signs were weak, flickering like a candle in the wind, but there was still life there, still hope. They carried Ren back to the deep star and then up to the surface. The journey felt longer than before, every minute stretching into an hour. Nobody spoke. They were all still processing what they had learned. The universe had become a much larger and much more frightening place. When they finally reached the horizon, Captain Lee Do-yeon was waiting for them. His face was grim. He had been listening to their transmissions, hearing everything Ren had shared. He helped them bring the alien aboard and stood watching as Yeeman hooked up monitors and began treatment. "Will it survive?" Do-yeon asked. "I do not know," Yeeman admitted. "I am a human doctor. I know nothing about Veil biology. I am doing my best to stabilize it, but I am working blind here." In the end, Ren woke again. Its eyes opened slowly, finding Yuna sitting beside its bed. The ancient being looked around the medical bay with curiosity, taking in the human technology that surrounded it. Compared to Veil engineering, everything here was crude and simple. But there was something else in Ren's gaze, something like admiration. "You build with what you have," Ren said softly. "You do not wait for perfect tools. You make imperfect tools work. This is why you are different." "How do you feel?" Yuna asked. "I am dying," Ren replied simply. "My body has been failing for centuries. The stasis slowed the process but did not stop it. I have days left, perhaps hours." Yuna felt a sharp pain in her chest. She had known this being for less than a day, but already it felt like losing an old friend. "I am sorry." "Do not be sorry. I have lived for 10 million years. I have seen wonders you cannot imagine, stars being born, galaxies dancing together, life spreading across the cosmos like fire. I am not sad to die. I am only sad that I will not see what humanity becomes." Ren reached out and took Yuna's hand. "But before I go, there is more I must tell you, more you must understand." The team gathered around the bed. Do-yeon, Minyu, Tiwoo, Hana, Suji, Yeeman, all of them listening. "The Veil seeded life on many worlds," Ren said. "Thousands of species grew from our work. Most of them are gone now, destroyed by the Hollow or simply faded away on their own. But before our civilization fell, we kept records of every species we had created. We watched you all grow." Images appeared in their minds again, shared by Ren's weakening telepathy. They saw other worlds, other beings. Some were tall and graceful. Some were small and quick. Some built great cities while others lived simple lives in harmony with nature. "They were all our children," Ren continued. "We loved them all, but they were not like you." "What do you mean?" Minyu asked. He still sounded troubled. The idea that humanity had been engineered bothered him deeply. "The other species accepted what the universe gave them. When times were hard, they waited for times to become easier. When enemies threatened them, they negotiated or fled or surrendered. They had no fire in them, no rage. They were content to survive." Ren's eyes found Minyu. "But humans refuse to merely survive. You demand to live. You see an obstacle and you destroy it or climb over it or find a way around it. You see an enemy and you fight, even when fighting seems impossible. You see death and you rage against it with every breath." "That does not sound like a compliment," Minyu said. "It is the highest compliment I can give. The Veil were peaceful. We thought peace was the greatest achievement any species could reach. But we were wrong. Peace without strength is just waiting to die. You have taught me that. In 65,000 years, watching humanity from afar, I have learned more about what it means to truly live than in all the millions of years before." Ren's hand tightened on Yuna's. "We did not create your strength. We did not create your courage. We did not create your stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Those things are yours alone. The spark we gave you was small. The fire you built from it is enormous. Whatever happens next, you must remember that. You owe us nothing. Everything you are, you made yourselves. Tiwu stepped forward. You said you had technology to give us. Knowledge. How do we access it? The ship will respond to you now. It has recognized you as descendants of the Veil, not biologically but spiritually. You carry our legacy in you. Go to the central chamber and touch the core. It will give you everything. Everything? Hana asked. Weapons, ships, power systems. Everything, Ren confirmed. 10 million years of science, engineering, medicine, physics, all of it preserved, waiting for someone worthy to receive it. Do-yun shook his head slowly. This is too much. How can we possibly handle technology that advanced? We are still learning how to build basic spacecraft. Jumping ahead by millions of years could destroy us. It could, Ren agreed. But the alternative is certain destruction. The Hollow are coming. They may already be closer than you think. You do not have time to develop slowly, to learn at your own pace. You must grow quickly or you will not grow at all. The captain looked at his crew. They looked back at him. The weight of the decision pressed down on all of them. And if we fail, Do-yun asked, if we take your knowledge and it destroys us, if we cannot handle this power? Ren smiled weakly. Then you were never what I believed you were, but I have watched your species for a long time. I have seen you face challenges that would have broken any other civilization. Ice ages that should have killed you all, plagues that should have ended your species, wars that should have left nothing but ashes. You survived them all. You did not just survive. You came back stronger every time. The ancient being's voice grew weaker, but its words remained clear. The Hollow have never met anything like you. They have consumed species that were older and wiser and more powerful, but those species accepted their fate. They believed that resistance was pointless, that some forces are too strong to fight. Humanity does not believe that. Humanity has never believed that. Ren looked at each of them one last time. The Hollow fear nothing because nothing has ever given them reason to fear. Change that. Show them what happens when they threaten a species that refuses to die. Make them understand that some prey bites back. Outside the medical bay, the sun was setting over the Pacific Ocean. The sky was painted in shades of orange and red, beautiful and peaceful. It was hard to believe that somewhere out there, in the darkness between stars, something terrible was hunting. I need to rest now, Ren said. But before I do, I must transfer the access codes for the ship systems. Dr. Park, will you accept them? Yuna did not hesitate. Yes. Ren placed its hand on her forehead. For a moment, she felt a rush of information flowing into her mind. Symbols and numbers and concepts she did not fully understand, but she knew she would understand them soon. The knowledge was there, waiting for her to learn it. Thank you, Ren whispered. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being everything I hoped you would be. The ancient being closed its eyes. Its breathing slowed. Within minutes it was gone. The last survivor of a species that had traveled across the galaxy to find hope had finally found it, in a strange and violent and wonderful species called humanity. Yuna stood up, wiping tears from her eyes. She looked at her team, at the people who had witnessed this moment with her. We have work to do, she said. Ren gave us a gift and a warning. We need to take both seriously. Do-yun nodded. When we return to land, everything changes. The world needs to know what we found, what is coming. We need to prepare. Can humanity prepare for something like this? Minyu asked. The Hollow destroyed civilizations millions of years old. What chance do we have? Yuna thought about Ren's words, about human history, about all the times her species had faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. Maybe no chance at all, she said, but we are going to try anyway. That is what humans do. Outside, the stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere among them, an ancient enemy was coming. And somewhere on a small blue planet, humanity was about to discover what it was capable of becoming. The universe had made a mistake. It had given humans a reason to fight. 6 months had passed since the discovery in the Pacific Ocean. The world had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. When Captain Lee Do-yun and his crew returned to land with their impossible story, the reaction was chaos. Denial came first, then fear, then anger. People blamed governments for hiding secrets. Governments blamed each other for creating a hoax. Scientists argued about whether the evidence was real. Religious leaders debated what it meant for faith. For weeks, humanity seemed ready to tear itself apart over the question of whether it was alone in the universe. But then something changed. The footage from the alien ship was released to the public. Everyone could see Ren speaking, sharing the history of the veil, warning about the hollow. The truth was impossible to deny. And when faced with a threat that endangered all of humanity, old enemies began to look at each other differently. It started small. Two countries that had been arguing over a border for decades announced they would work together on a joint research program. Then 3 more joined. Then 10. Within a month, the United Nations had created a new organization dedicated to preparing for the alien threat. They called it the United Earth Defense Council, and they asked Dr. Park Yuna to lead it. She did not want the job. She was a scientist, not a leader. But she was the one who had touched the veil core and received its knowledge. She was the one who understood best what humanity was facing. And she was the one who had made a promise to a dying alien that humans would not give up. So she accepted. The veil ship was brought to the surface and transported to a secure facility. Engineers from every nation came to study it, guided by the knowledge Ren had transferred to Yuna. What they learned amazed them. The veil had developed technology that humans had only dreamed about. Faster than light travel, shields that could stop weapons of enormous power, energy sources that could run for millions of years without fuel. But the human engineers did not simply copy what they found. They improved it. They took veil designs and made them stronger, faster, more efficient. They combined alien science with human creativity in ways the veil had never imagined. "This is remarkable," Hana said one day, looking at the plans for the first human starship. The veil design was elegant, but it was also conservative. They built things to last, not to fight. Our version is 30% faster and carries twice the weapons. Humans have spent their entire history learning to fight, Yuna replied. We may not be as old as the veil, but we have had a lot of practice. The shipyards went up quickly. Old rivalries were forgotten as nations pooled their resources. Factories that had built cars and planes now built components for starships. Scientists who had competed against each other now worked side by side. For the first time in history, humanity had a common goal that united everyone. Captain Lee Do-yun was given command of the first completed ship, a massive vessel named the Horizon Ascendant. It was the most powerful thing humans had ever built, armed with weapons that could crack a planet and protected by shields that could withstand almost anything. And it was just the beginning. More ships followed, each one slightly better than the last. Dr. Kang Minyu had struggled with the truth about humanity's origins. The idea that his species had been engineered by aliens bothered him deeply. But as he watched humanity rise to meet the challenge, his perspective changed. Ren was right, he told Yuna one evening. They gave us a spark, but we built the fire. Whatever we came from, we have become something our creators never expected. I think they would be proud of us. I think they would be amazed by us, Yuna replied. 6 months after the discovery, the deep space sensors detected something approaching the solar system. It was exactly what Ren had warned them about. A fleet of black ships, thousands of them, moving through space like a swarm of hungry insects. The hollow had finally arrived. The message came first. Broadcast on every frequency in every language, somehow translated perfectly so that every human could understand. The voice was cold and empty, without emotion or personality. Surrender, become nothing. Resistance is futile and will only increase suffering. Your world will be consumed. Your species will end. This is inevitable. Accept it. The same message the Hollow had sent to 1,000 worlds before. The same words that had broken civilizations millions of years old. Every species that heard it had eventually surrendered, hopping for mercy that never came. Humanity's response was broadcast from every ship, every station, every radio tower on Earth. A single phrase, spoken in 100 languages at once, unified in defiance. Come and take it. The Hollow fleet paused. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien ships hung in space as if confused. In all their long history of conquest, nobody had ever answered them like that. Then they attacked. The battle for Earth began at the edge of the solar system. The Hollow came in waves, their black ships filling the void. They expected easy prey, a primitive species that would crumble at the first sign of real force. They were wrong. The human fleet met them head-on. The Horizon Ascendant led the charge, its weapons blazing. Captain Lee Doyon stood on the bridge, calling out orders, his voice calm and steady. Around him, his crew worked with perfect coordination, humans from a dozen different countries united in a single purpose. The first Hollow ship exploded, then the second, then the third. The Hollow had never seen anything like it. Their enemies always ran. Their enemies always surrendered. But these creatures fought back with a ferocity that made no sense. They charged into danger instead of away from it. They protected their damaged ships instead of abandoning them. They refused to retreat even when retreat would have been logical. More human ships joined the battle. Ships from every nation, carrying crews that spoke different languages and came from different cultures but fought as one. The darkness of space lit up with weapons, fire, and explosions. Dr. Kang Minyu stood at a sensor station aboard the Horizon Ascendant, watching the Hollow fleet's movements. They are hesitating, he said, unable to believe what he was seeing. They are actually hesitating. Of course they are, Lieutenant Bei Suji replied from her weapons console. They have been killing easy prey for millions of years. They forgot what it feels like to fight something that can hurt them. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Lives were lost. But humanity did not break. Every time the Hollow pushed forward, humans pushed back harder. Every time an alien ship was destroyed, cheers erupted across the fleet. And slowly, impossibly, the Hollow began to fall back. It was not a retreat. The Hollow did not know how to retreat. But they were confused, uncertain, facing something their ancient minds could not understand. A species that was young and small and technologically inferior had hurt them, had fought them to a standstill, had refused to accept the inevitable. On the bridge of the Horizon Ascendant, Captain Doyon watched the enemy fleet withdraw to regroup. His ship was damaged, his crew exhausted, but they had survived. More than survived. They had won the first battle. Signal the fleet, he said. Tell them to hold position. We have shown the Hollow what we can do. Now we make sure they remember it. On Earth, billions of people watched the battle through transmitted footage. They saw their ships fighting. They saw the Hollow retreating. They saw something that had seemed impossible become real. Humanity had faced the darkness that had consumed 1,000 civilizations, and humanity had not fallen. Dr. Park Yuna stood in the command center of the Defense Council, surrounded by screens showing the battle. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. She thought about Ren, about the ancient being who had crossed the galaxy hopping to find salvation. Ren had been right about them. Humanity was different. This is not over, she said to the people around her. The Hollow will come back. They will adapt. They will try again. But now they know something they have never known before. What is that? Someone asked. Yuna looked at the screen. at the battered but unbroken human fleet, at the retreating alien armada, at the stars that had watched humanity struggle and suffer and grow for 65,000 years. "Fear," she said. "They know what fear feels like, and they will never forget it." Far away, among the retreating hollow ships, something like thought moved through the hive mind that connected them all. They had destroyed civilizations beyond counting. They had consumed worlds without number. They had never known defeat. Until now. The young species from the small blue world had changed everything, and the Hollow realized with something approaching horror that this was only the beginning. Humanity would not stop fighting. Humanity would never stop fighting. Humanity would hunt them across the galaxy if necessary, carrying that strange fire that burned in their hearts. The stars had always watched humanity with cold indifference, but now humanity stared back, armed with ancient knowledge and endless determination. And somewhere in the depths of space, for the first time in their long and terrible existence, the Hollow felt something cold settle into their consciousness. The universe was not safe anymore, not for them. Humanity was awake, and humanity was coming.